Hello, this is video 7 in a series on Master Server Toolkit. In this video, I'm going to cover the cleanup that needs to happen for references that have been lying around, pointing to Master Server Toolkit objects and scripts and whatnot from the original demo folder that I copied and started working on the original video in video number 1. From the start of the series on video 1, the setup of this project, what it did, what I did was to start the project, I actually took a copy of the Master Server Toolkit Bridges, Fishnet, Basic Rooms, and Lobbies folder and copied it into my own assets and then just started going. Made I think I made a couple tweaks here and there, but really in order to keep going with this project, there are some things that need to be resolved. For instance, if you if you've played around with it at all, you'll probably notice that the scenes, or the scripts rather, like we have these character scripts in the source Master Server Toolkit that got copied, and we want to copy them. We want to copy them so we can edit them later on for our own purposes. However, when those copies happened, um, the scenes and references were still really referencing the scripts in the Master Server Toolkit um, source code, and that needs to change. And really, I'm not going to go through the painstaking uh, details of updating this project. I will explain what I did and why and show a couple things, but if you really want to get the whole picture, you can go to the repository for this project, which is here on GitHub. And I've been trying my best to keep these in branches. And you'll see a branch named MST underscore reference cleanup. And that includes and this has been merged in the main, but um, you can check and see what all changed between MST6 and the prior branch of MST5 to get all the gory details. Now, not only that, I tried to keep track of these changes in the README file. So out on the README file, you'll see this entry or section labeled reference cleanup, work in progress, which maybe I'll update it, but you'll see that what I tried to do is track, what scene and then what root element or root game object in the hierarchy needed to be updated, and then any child element or component on that game object. I wish there was a better way to refer to these game objects and components, but I did sort of like a URI style here. So anyhow, bear with me. But I tried to list out what I ended up doing, and I'll go through this in this video. I won't recreate what I did. I could try, but I think that would just be a chore, honestly. But basically, to just kind of give an overview. So if you open up the room scene, which we'll wait here, you'll see that, say, in the arena object, if you select it, selected in the hierarchy, and then you select the arena object or the prefab, it's going to highlight, and I'm clicking it right now, and you see it jumping, and it's actually getting highlighted from the prefab in the bottom, in this bottom part of my screen, which is under the demos folder for the Master Server Toolkit, way on down here. So if I collapse this, we'll see it a little better. So that's one thing to be aware of, that the prefab is actually referenced here. So you might not need to copy this one over or update the reference if um, you don't plan on using it, but I'm just pointing that out. But then if you also look at, say, room server um, in the hierarchy, you select that and you go to room network manager component, and I'll expand it here. I'll collapse these others. You're going to see that, um, where are we here? Yeah, you'll see that the room network manager, it's being referenced in the Master Server Toolkit fishnet bridges scripts room. So if you want that to be changed, if you plan on editing that, you might want to fix that reference as well. And by fixing the references, there might be some community asset that lets you do this, or you might. There's a couple of different ways you can kind of fix references, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit once I kind of go over some of these things, these references that you'll want to take a look at. Let's see here. So room client. So if you take a look at the room client here as well, you'll see the room client manager. Um, and here, I mean, really, you might leave this alone if you're not going to uh, edit it at all, and just leave it as framework code. Um, but then once you get done with that, if you want to take a look at room server, and you look at the spawnable prefabs, this is one thing you'll really want to change is, let's see, server manager. Actually, it's network manager. So, oh goodness, I'm getting all confused. Let's just walk. Really, room server is the big one that you need to mess with. So, first off, selecting room server. And if you look at network manager, and we'll just walk on down through here and start clicking on stuff. So the logging, notice that the logging data is referenced in the old one, but yet if you go up to data, we have the same one up here. You can update that by dragging and dropping it. Same goes for the spawnable prefabs. That'll need to be updated. And again, you'll want to go and select data, and then single prefab, just drop it over. And then now it's, this is not beginner stuff. You should know how to do all this stuff already. I'm just kind of pointing it out. If you don't know already, well, God help you. This networking stuff is a bit advanced, so good luck. Anyhow, moving on. I'll collapse the network manager. Now under room network manager script here, if we click on these components, we have and these are looking good. Here we're just referencing out of the current room hierarchy, and that's fine. Working on down here, room server manager, that's again, kind of framework code, I would leave that alone. Um, however, you want to check these click handlers and see if they're referencing the correct area and they're not going somewhere else, which that's not, so that's fine. Let's see, collapse that. Server manager, that looks fine. And this is all in that README again. I try to note it. I tried to be as thorough as possible. And if you wanted something even more thorough, you can do a text compare between the different checkouts of the branches. So, but yeah, client room. So here, if I click on the offline scene, you'll see that it's referencing the scene under Master Server Toolkit. You want to update that to the scene under um, the copied app scenes client, like so, obviously. Same goes for the room scene, but I'm not going to do that. So anyhow, yeah, and that's it for the room server. Um, Next up, you want to take a look at room spawner, or player spawner rather, and you'll see, like, if you click on the player prefab, you'll see that it's again selecting the prefab under that, and you'll want to go into the local or the app prefabs and update that guy. Let's see. What's next? Room server default scene. Did I cover that? Room server default scene. I did. Okay, never mind about that. I'm looking at my notes over here on this other monitor here. Bear with me. Okay, so the big annoying one that was kind of annoying for me. It's just time consuming and frustrating. But if you look at the prefabs FPS character, you'll see a lot of player scripts attached to the prefabs. So here, if you click on player script, you'll see that it's highlighting the script under Master Server Toolkit, and we'd like to change that to the scripts under the app folder. Now you can try to go and just remove the component or do something like this, like you might go and drag it down and then remove the previous one. Your mileage may vary. Um, there was some that had like there were some scripts here that had a decorator or an attribute on them that required another script that was already on there, so it was annoying for me to do this manually. So what I ended up doing is writing down I made note of the old and new good. Now this is formatted weird in the renderer, but if we look at it raw, can I look at it raw here? Yeah. Okay, so in the raw view, you can see the old GUID. This is the old GUID that's under, or the original one rather, that's in the Master Server Toolkit, and then the new GUID that's generated whenever I copied that demo folder into my app folder. So Unity, and you probably already know this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Unity, whenever you create a new script or whatever, or really any of these objects, and I'll open this up in the Explorer window. You create a new script, like a C# script or whatever. It's going to create this metadata file for each of these scripts and other assets. And these metadata files, I'll right click and I'll open it with like Notepad. So here's like, oh geez. Okay, so here's the metadata file for the player character C# script. Now, they track a couple things like file format, whatever. I'm sure that's probably some internal version that they use for their IDE and whatnot. But the thing that was important to me was this GUID. Now, I'm not going to recommend you do this. I'm just telling you that this is what I did. I'm going to recommend that you edit it in your Unity editor manually. And if you go and hack on these metadata files with these old and new GUIDs, then more power to you. Good luck. Don't blame me if you screw something up and you take hours trying to figure out why. But I was very methodical in capturing the old and new GUIDs is what I did and then what I did is I would copy that GUID and then search using like Notepad++, and I'd like go find in files, uh, that old GUID, and then what subdirectory search or whatever. And you should, if you're doing this, I hope you know how to use some text search capability on something, Notepad++ or whatever. I scanned the Unity directory contents of each file looking for this old GUID, and then I reviewed every reference that's in there, and I updated the relevant items with the new GUID. I did not touch, like say, the prefabs for that were owned by the Master Server Toolkit. I updated the prefabs that were copied by me with the new GUID, so that way it would reference correctly, and I wouldn't have to go and futz around with the manual uh, reference updates on those scripts. Anyhow, again, if you want to hack on these files, be my guest, but I'm not recommending it unless you're up for an adventure. Anyway, so what else? Fixed assets, prefabs, room server references. So, oh yeah. So, okay. So there is another. So we have this room server prefab. You'll want to update the network manager uh, for logging and spawning. Again, just kind of work your way down and start updating those as well if it makes sense. And you can refer to my README on what I did and that kind of a thing. So anyhow, I hope that helps. Now you can try to do this on your own, or you can just clone. Update if you're using that MST demo uh, repo from GitHub that I've been messing around with. You can just check out what I have. Either way, I hope that helps. And that's it. See you in the next video.